She walked into the courtroom alone, no lawyer by her side, just another witness. When the judge asked her to remove her jacket, no one expected what happened next. The small tattoo on her arm shouldn't have been there. It belonged to a unit that officially ceased to exist 40 years ago. The judge's face went pale as he whispered words that changed everything. That's not possible. Hello, welcome to the Hidden Stories. From which city in the world are you watching this video today? Let us know in the comments, and if you enjoy stories about hidden truths and unexpected heroes, please consider subscribing for more content like this. The federal courthouse stood imposing against the Washington skyline. Its stone facade was a monument to justice. Among the stream of attorneys, defendants, and spectators, one woman moved differently. Samantha Rivers entered alone, her movements measured and deliberate. At 45, she was medium height with dark hair carefully pulled back. Unlike other witnesses with their nervous energy and hovering attorneys, she carried a quiet certainty, as though the outcome had been decided long before she arrived. She stopped at the security checkpoint. The guard examined her ID with unusual scrutiny. Purpose of your visit today? Witness for the prosecution, Samantha replied, her voice soft but steady. No attorney with you? Don't need one. This calm certainty made the guard look at her more closely, but finally allowed her passage. Inside courtroom 3A, the atmosphere crackled with tension. The Vanguard Defense trial had dominated headlines for weeks. A private military contractor was accused of excessive force and civilian casualties in Eastern Europe, a contested region where America officially had minimal presence. Vanguard's executives sat behind a wall of expensive attorneys, their confidence evident in relaxed postures and occasional smiles. Samantha took her seat in the witness waiting area, hands folded in her lap. Her appearance was unremarkable. Mid-40s, graying hair pulled back simply, minimal makeup, conservative navy blazer over a plain black shirt. Nothing about her suggested she would soon become the focal point of one of the most extraordinary courtroom moments in recent memory. Judge Frederick Morrison entered, and the courtroom rose. A former military prosecutor, known for his no-nonsense approach, he'd been presiding over the case with military precision. Prosecutor Angela Torres called Samantha to the stand. A rising star in the Justice Department, whose reputation for thoroughness had made her Vanguard's greatest concern. Please state your name and occupation for the record, Torres began. Samantha Rivers. I worked as a humanitarian aid coordinator in Moldavia from 2016 to 2019. Vanguard's lead counsel, Harrison Blake, immediately rose. His tailored suit and perfectly styled silver hair projected authority and success. Your Honor, we question Ms. Rivers's credentials to testify about military operations in a contested region. Judge Morrison's eyes narrowed. The witness is here to testify about she personally witnessed, counselor, not to provide military analysis. Proceed, Ms. Torres. For the next hour, Samantha described finding a village destroyed, not by insurgent activity as officially reported, but by precision strikes that left distinctive patterns of damage. Her account was methodical, almost clinical, but certain details brought weight to her testimony. How she helped a child search through rubble for a beloved toy. How the bodies were arranged in ways inconsistent with chaotic insurgent attacks. How she documented injuries with photographs that now appeared on the courtroom screens. Throughout her testimony, she never raised her voice or showed obvious emotion. Yet the courtroom grew increasingly still, the horror of her account hanging in the air. And you're certain it was Vanguard personnel you observed at the site afterward? Torres asked. Yes, they wore unmarked tactical gear, but their equipment and protocols matched Vanguard's proprietary systems. They were not regular military. Torres nodded. No further questions, Your Honor. Judge Morrison turned to the defense. Your witness, Mr. Blake. Blake approached with the confidence of someone about to spring a trap. Ms. Rivers, you claim to have been at these exact coordinates on May 17, 2018. Correct. He displayed satellite imagery on the courtroom screens showing an overhead view of mountainous terrain. Is that correct? Correct. Then perhaps you can explain how these satellite images from that very day show no humanitarian personnel in the area. In fact, they show an active insurgent presence, making it impossible for aid workers to access the village. Samantha didn't flinch. Those aren't the correct images. The courtroom stirred. Judge Morrison leaned forward. That's a serious accusation. Ms. Rivers. A satellite pass over that region on May 17th was at 14:32 local time. These images are time-stamped 11:15. They're either from another day or digitally altered. Lake's smile faltered slightly. Your Honor, the witness is speculating. I'm not speculating. The shadows in these images indicate mid-morning, not afternoon. The satellite that monitors this region is on a fixed schedule. Judge Morrison studied the images more carefully. Mr. Blake, can you verify the authenticity of these images? Blake conferred urgently with his team while Vanguard's executives exchanged concerned glances. After a moment, one of the junior attorneys handed him a folder. Your Honor, we maintain these are the correct images, but we can provide additional documentation if necessary. Judge Morrison nodded slowly. We'll review that documentation after the lunch recess. He turned to Samantha. Ms. Rivers, as per courtroom security protocol, I need to ask you to remove your jacket before we continue. The request was standard, though something in the judge's tone suggested heightened scrutiny. Witnesses were often asked to show they weren't carrying recording devices or weapons, but there was something different about this situation. The moment hung as Samantha slowly rose. With deliberate movements, she removed her simple blazer, revealing a black t-shirt underneath. On her arm was a small tattoo, an eclipse with 3 stars, arranged in a triangle. The courtroom fell silent. Judge Morrison's face drained of color as he stared at the symbol. That's not possible, he whispered, just loud enough for the front of the courtroom to hear. Blake was suddenly on his feet. Your Honor, we request an immediate recess. The Vanguard executives were no longer looking confident. One whispered urgently into his phone, while another scribbled rapid notes to his attorney. Court will recess until tomorrow morning, Judge Morrison announced, his voice strained. Ms. Rivers, you will remain available to the court. As the courtroom cleared, 2 men in dark suits appeared at the back doors, scanning the room until they spotted Samantha. Court security moved to intercept them. As they attempted to approach. In the confusion, Torres approached Samantha. What just happened? She asked quietly. Samantha met her eyes. They recognized who I really am. An hour later, Samantha sat across from Judge Morrison in his chambers. Prosecutor Torres and a court security officer were the only others present. That tattoo belongs to a unit that was disbanded 30 years ago, Judge Morrison said, his voice tight. Shadow Echo was officially disbanded in 1989. Officially, Samantha agreed calmly. Who are you really? Instead of answering, Samantha produced a thin folder from her bag. This is classified above your current clearance, Judge, but given your previous service and the circumstances, I believe you have need to know. The judge opened the folder, his expression growing increasingly grim as he read. This indicates Shadow Echo was reactivated in 2003 for off-the-books operations, where America officially had no presence, Samantha confirmed. And Vanguard Defense was contracted to clean up evidence of operations gone wrong. Judge Morrison closed the folder. Why are you here without official backing? Where's your chain of command? Dead, compromised, or unwilling to acknowledge what happened. Samantha's composure finally showed a crack. Someone has to speak for those who can't. As they talked, Torres noticed details she had missed before. The precise way Samantha positioned herself in the room, always facing the door. The faded scars on her hands consistent with tactical training. The way she addressed the judge using military courtesy forms without seeming to realize it. Those men who tried to enter the courtroom, Torres said, they're not here to protect you, are they? No, they're here to ensure I never testify again. That night, in a secure hotel room with court protection, Samantha sat alone by the window. As she watched for surveillance, memories surfaced unbidden. Standing solemnly at a funeral, alone among grieving families who didn't know she had commanded their loved ones' last mission. Maintaining a wall of photos in her apartment, faces of the fallen, each with a date and location that matched no official record. A doctor showing her scan results using words like terminal and 6 months at most. Methodically collecting evidence from secure drops around the world, building the case piece by piece. Her phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Echo actual inbound 0900. Someone from her old unit had made contact. Meanwhile, in various locations across the city and beyond, the ripples of her courtroom revelation spread. General Nathan Cross, retired, received a secure call that had him immediately packing a go-bag. Judge Morrison made calls to old military contacts, his expression growing more troubled with each conversation. Torres discovered her case files had been accessed and partially redacted by unknown government entities. And in a private boardroom, Vanguard CEO held an emergency meeting. She was supposed to be dead already. The next morning, the courtroom had transformed. Military officers in dress uniform filled several rows. Government attorneys had joined Vanguard's defense team. Security had tripled with armed personnel at every door. Judge Morrison entered with a grave expression. Before we continue, the defense has filed an emergency motion to exclude this witness on national security grounds. A new attorney stood. Maxwell Thompson, Department of Justice. Ms. Rivers is attempting to disclose classified information that could endanger ongoing operations and personnel. Judge Morrison studied Samantha. Ms. Rivers, given these serious allegations, I must ask directly, who are you really? The courtroom fell silent as Samantha rose. Her posture shifted subtly but dramatically. Civilian slouch replaced by perfect military bearing. Commander Samantha Rivers, Shadow Echo Special Operations, honorably discharged 2018. She placed a sealed folder on the evidence table. This contains the operational details of Operation Nightfall, the mission Vanguard was hired to cover up. It includes the names of 37 civilians killed to hide America's presence in a region where Congress had forbidden operations. Thompson jumped to his feet. This woman has no authority to access or disclose classified information of this nature. She has every authority, a voice called from the gallery. An older man in a general's uniform stood, his bearing commanding immediate attention. General Nathan Cross, former Joint Special Operations Command. Commander Rivers was one of our finest officers. If she says Vanguard executed civilians, you'd better believe they did. The courtroom erupted. Thompson demanded the courtroom be cleared for national security reasons. Vanguard's attorneys huddled with their clients, whose expressions ranged from shock to fury. Through the chaos, Samantha remained standing at attention, eyes locked with General Cross in silent communication. Judge Morrison gavelled repeatedly for order. This court will recess for 1 hour while I consult with relevant authorities. The courtroom will be sealed, and no one is to leave the building. As security moved to secure the room, Samantha swayed slightly, catching herself on the table. Only Torres noticed the brief grimace of pain had crossed her face. "Are you all right?" Torres whispered. "Fine," Samantha replied, but her complexion had gone ashen. "Just need to sit down." An hour stretched to 2. In a conference room off the main corridor, Judge Morrison convened an impromptu meeting with General Cross, Samantha, both legal teams, and representatives from the Department of Justice and Defense. "This is unprecedented," Thompson argued. "Commander Rivers, if that's who she really is, has no authorization to disclose operational details of classified missions." "With respect, sir," Samantha countered, her voice steady despite her pallor. "Executive Order 13526 explicitly states that classification cannot be used to conceal violations of law or prevent embarrassment to agencies. What happened in Moldavia was illegal, and the cover-up cost American lives. What proof do you have of your identity?" Thompson demanded. "Shadow Echo doesn't exist in any current military structure." General Cross placed a sealed folder on the table. Her service record, heavily redacted, but it confirms her rank and service. Judge Morrison reviewed the documents, his expression grave. "This appears authentic. Miss Torres, your position?" "The prosecution believes Commander Rivers's testimony is essential to establishing Vanguard's culpability. If necessary, we can conduct proceedings under seal to protect classified information." "That's not good enough," Blake interrupted. "My clients have the right to a public trial." "Your clients waived that right when they concealed evidence of war crimes," Samantha said quietly. 37 civilians, 5 American operators, all dead to protect Vanguard's contracts. After heated debate, Judge Morrison ruled the court would reconvene tomorrow in a secured session. Only cleared individuals would be permitted. Commander Rivers's testimony would be taken under oath and entered into a classified record. That evening, Samantha sat in her secure hotel room, reviewing her notes. A knock at the door revealed Torres carrying a thick file and looking troubled. "May I come in?" Samantha nodded, gesturing to a chair. "Someone accessed our case files today," Torres said. "Sections referring to your testimony were redacted before I could stop it." "I'm not surprised. Who are you really fighting here, Commander? Vanguard or someone else?" Samantha moved to the window, scanning the street below. "Both." Vanguard pulled the trigger, but they had authorization from people who should have known better. She turned back to Torres. "Do you know what happens when a Black Ops unit becomes inconvenient? They don't disband it. They disavow it. Same missions, same risks, but without the safety net." "Is that what happened to Shadow Echo?" "After a mission. In 2016, yes. We became too dangerous politically. When Operation Nightfall went wrong, Vanguard was sent to clean up all evidence of American presence. That included us." "The others in your unit?" Samantha's expression remained controlled, but something flickered in her eyes. "Most died in Moldavia. Some made it home only to have accidents or commit suicide under suspicious circumstances. 3 of us survived. One's in hiding, one's in a psychiatric facility. And I'm here. Why come forward now? Why not when it happened?" She removed a small pill bottle from her pocket, swallowing a tablet dry. "I tried through proper channels, through improper channels. No one would listen. And now I don't have much time left." Torres's eyes widened in understanding. "You're ill." "Terminal. 6 months. Maybe less. Cancer from exposure to chemical weapons during an operation in 2015. The VA won't acknowledge it because the operation officially never happened." Before Torres could respond, Samantha's phone buzzed with a text message. She checked it, her expression changing subtly. "I need to go downstairs for 5 minutes. Security knows. Is everything all right? An old friend. Won't take long." In the hotel lobby, Samantha approached a man seated with his back to the entrance. He didn't turn as she sat across from him. "You're looking rough, Commander," he said softly. "Coming back from the dead takes a toll, Major Garrett." He slid a thumb drive across the table. Satellite imagery from May 17, 2018. Original, unaltered, and comes logs from Vanguard's tactical team. They knew there were no insurgents. How? Did you get this? I still have friends in signal intelligence. They've been watching this case. He finally looked at her directly. You're not alone, Samantha. Others want the truth out too. Too dangerous for them to come forward, but not for you. It wasn't a question. I have less to lose. She pocketed the drive. Why help now? You weren't at Moldavia. I would have been if they hadn't reassigned me 2 days before. Those were my people, too. Back in her room, Samantha connected the drive to a secure laptop. The files confirmed everything she'd testified to and provided crucial details for tomorrow's closed session. As she worked, another wave of pain hit, stronger than before. She doubled over, gasping, waiting for it to pass. When it finally subsided, she straightened and continued working. Not yet, she whispered to herself. Not until it's done. Morning brought a transformed courtroom. All recording devices had been banned. Court reporters with security clearances replaced the usual staff. Windows were covered. Only essential personnel remained. The judge, attorneys, defendants, key military officials, and security officers. This proceeding is classified at the TSSCI level, Judge Morrison announced. Disclosure of any information from this session carries severe penalties under the Espionage Act. Samantha took the stand, noticeably weaker than the day before, but composed. Commander Rivers, please explain your direct knowledge of Operation Nightfall. Shadow Echo was deployed to Moldavia in 2018 to extract an intelligence asset embedded with insurgent forces. The mission parameters were exceeded when Vanguard contractors who were supposed to provide perimeter security only engaged a village they believed was harboring insurgents. She produced photographs showing precision strikes inconsistent with insurgent capabilities. These are not the result of improvised weapons. These are signature marks of Vanguard's proprietary weapon systems. Over the next 2 hours, Samantha laid out a damning case. Satellite imagery showing Vanguard forces at locations they denied being. Communications logs revealing they knew no insurgents were present. Mission reports, altered after the fact, justify civilian casualties. When it became clear that civilians had been killed, Vanguard was ordered to sanitize the site. This included eliminating witnesses, both local survivors and my own team members who objected. From her pocket, she removed a chain of dog tags, placing them one by one on the stand before her. Lieutenant Marcus Red, killed while attempting to evacuate children. Captain Sarah Lopez, executed while providing medical aid to survivors. Major David Foster, my second in command, shot while confronting Vanguard leadership about their actions. With each name, her voice remained steady, but her complexion grew paler. By the time she finished the list, she gripped the edge of the witness stand for support. General Cross rose from his seat, standing at attention. 2 other military officers in the room joined him. When she finished the list, they saluted as one. After a moment, Judge Morrison, revealed through testimony to have served with one of the fallen early in his career, stood and joined the salute. Samantha returned it with perfect form, her first. Openly military gesture in the courtroom. As cross-examination began, Blake adopted a new strategy. Commander Rivers, if these events occurred as you describe, why did you not report them through your chain of command? I did. My after-action report detailed everything. It was classified and buried. And you expect us to believe that the entire military command structure conspired to conceal these alleged crimes? Not the entire structure, just enough people. In key positions, most never knew what happened. Isn't it possible your recollection is affected by the trauma of combat, or perhaps by your medical condition? Samantha's eyes narrowed. My condition has nothing to do with my testimony. Your Honor, Torres objected. Commander Rivers' medical status is irrelevant and outside the scope of this inquiry. I'll allow limited questioning on this point, Judge Morrison ruled. The witness's reliability is at issue, Blake pressed on. You have terminal cancer, correct? With perhaps months to live. That's correct. And you blame your condition on chemical exposure during a classified mission, because that's the truth. Isn't it possible that your terminal diagnosis has motivated you to fabricate these accusations? A final act of vengeance against the system you feel abandoned you. The courtroom tensed. Even some of Vanguard's executives looked uncomfortable with this line of questioning. If I wanted vengeance, Samantha replied evenly, there are more direct ways I could have pursued it. I'm here for justice, not revenge. Yet you admit you have nothing to lose by making these accusations? I have nothing left to lose, she corrected him. There's a difference. As Blake opened his mouth to continue, Samantha suddenly gripped the witness stand harder, her knuckles white. She swayed visibly, then collapsed. Court officers rushed to her side as Judge Morrison called for a medic. Within minutes, paramedics arrived and rushed her to George Washington University Hospital, the closest medical facility with appropriate security clearances. Terminal condition exacerbated by stress, the emergency physician informed Torres, who had accompanied the ambulance. She's stabilized for now, but this kind of collapse will happen more frequently as her condition progresses. Can she continue testifying? Medically inadvisable, but something tells me she won't stop until she's finished what she started. General Cross arrived at the hospital an hour later, his face grim. He found Torres in the waiting room. How is she? Stable but weak. The doctor says she shouldn't continue testifying. Cross nodded. Sounds like Samantha. She always was too stubborn to know when to quit. He sighed heavily. I should have listened when she tried to report this 3 years ago. You knew? She came to me after it happened. I thought she was suffering from PTSD, maybe survivor's guilt. The evidence she had then wasn't as complete as what she has now. He looked away. I failed her. You're here now, Torres said. That counts for something. In her hospital room, Samantha lay with her eyes closed and 4 in her arm. When the door opened, she spoke without looking. I'm not finished, General. I know, Commander, and neither am I. The next day, against medical advice, Samantha insisted on returning to court. She arrived in a wheelchair, and 4 port still visible in her arm. But her eyes were clear and determined. The closed session resumed with enhanced security after rumors of the previous day's revelations had begun circulating in Washington. Commander Rivers, are you able to continue? Judge Morrison asked, concern evident in his voice. Yes, Your Honor. Before we proceed, I want to address something. The judge turned to the assembled participants. I have received communications from the Department of Defense and Justice regarding this proceeding. They've requested termination based on national security concerns. I have denied those requests. He paused. Justice must be seen even when it cannot be publicly known. The defense resumed cross-examination, but their approach had shifted. The personal attacks were replaced by technical questions about chain of command and authorization. Commander, who authorized Shadow Echo's presence in Moldavia? Blake asked. Operation Nightfall was authorized by Joint Special Operations Command, under Directive SCI 7734, signed by then Deputy Director of Operations Raymond Walsh. And did this directive authorize engagement with civilian populations? No. Our mission was strictly extraction of an intelligence asset. Vanguard was contracted for perimeter security only. Blake produced a document. This field order, signed by Vanguard's on-site commander, indicates they received intelligence about insurgent activity in the village. That intelligence was fabricated. Samantha countered. She nodded to Torres, who presented the thumb drive's contents. These are the original satellite images and communications logs. They prove Vanguard knew no insurgents were present before they attacked. Site must be sanitized regardless of occupants. Complete the objective. The evidence was damning. Satellite imagery showed the village was occupied only by civilians. Communications logs captured Vanguard's team leader acknowledging this fact. Before ordering the attack anyway, Blake's clients conferred urgently. After several minutes, Vanguard's CEO leaned forward and whispered something to his attorney. "Your Honor, may we request a brief recess?" Blake asked when court reconvened. 30 minutes later, Blake approached the bench. "Your Honor, in light of the evidence presented, my clients wish to explore potential resolution options." "Are you proposing a plea agreement, Counselor?" "We are requesting discussions with the prosecution." "Yes." Judge Morrison turned to Torres. "Ms. Torres? The United States is willing to engage in such discussions, Your Honor, provided they acknowledge full responsibility for the events in Moldavia and cooperate with identifying all responsible parties." The judge nodded. "Court will recess while these discussions proceed. I expect to be informed of any agreement reached." In the following days, a series of closed-door meetings took place between prosecutors, defense attorneys, and government officials. Samantha remained in the hospital, updated regularly by Torres and General Cross. On the third day, they arrived together with news. "Vanguard has agreed to a plea," Torres announced. "They'll plead guilty to multiple violations of military contractor regulations, unlawful use of force, and obstruction of justice." "What about the civilian deaths?" Samantha asked. "Those charges will be addressed in the sealed portion of the agreement," Cross explained. "They've agreed to compensate the families through an international relief fund and provide full military honors and benefits for their families. The Pentagon has agreed to acknowledge Shadow Echo's existence in a classified addendum to the military record." Cross said. Samantha closed her eyes briefly. "What about the authorization? Who signed off on the cleanup operation?" Torres and Cross exchanged glances. "That's where it gets complicated," Torres admitted. "Vanguard has implicated former Deputy Director Walsh, but he's claiming he was acting on orders from higher up." "How high?" "Former Secretary of Defense Brennan, but he'll never face charges. He died last year." Samantha nodded slowly. "Of course. The convenient timing of heart attacks." "This is still a victory," Cross insisted. "Vanguard's executives will serve time, the families will receive compensation, and your team will be remembered." "It's not enough," Samantha said quietly. "But it's something." A week later, in a heavily secured courtroom, Judge Morrison presided over the formal plea agreement. Vanguard CEO and operational directors stood as the charges were read, a significantly expanded list from the original indictment, now including conspiracy and violations of international law. After accepting the pleas, Judge Morrison addressed the court. "This case has revealed disturbing failures in our system of oversight for military contractors. While national security requires some operations remain classified, that classification can never be used to shield criminal behavior or avoid accountability." He turned to where Samantha sat in her wheelchair. "The court acknowledges the extraordinary courage of Commander Rivers in bringing these matters to light." As the proceedings concluded, Samantha was approached by a Department of Defense official who handed her a sealed envelope. Inside was a brief document acknowledging the existence and service of Shadow Echo, along with a presidential unit citation, awarded retroactively. "It's not public," the official explained quietly, "but it's real, and it's in the record now." Samantha's health deteriorated rapidly in the weeks that followed. She was moved to Walter Reed Medical Center, where her status as a decorated officer finally granted her the medical care that had been denied for years. General Cross visited daily, often bringing other officers who had served with Shadow Echo. in its earlier iterations. One afternoon, he arrived with a surprise visitor, Major Garrett, the former Shadow Echo operator who had provided the critical evidence. "You shouldn't be here," Samantha told him. "It's still dangerous. So arrest." He replied with a faint smile. "I brought something." He placed a patch on her bedside table. The Shadow Echo insignia, newly manufactured. "They're making them again, officially." 2 months after the Vanguard plea, a classified ceremony was held in a secure Pentagon conference room. Families of the fallen Shadow Echo operators were present, having been granted temporary clearances. For the first time, they heard the full truth about how their loved ones had died and were presented with silver stars. Samantha attended in her wheelchair, now significantly weakened, but determined to see this final mission through. After the formal presentations, she spoke briefly with each family, sharing personal memories of their loved ones that had been locked away behind classification for years. "He always carried that photo of your daughter," she told David Foster's wife. "Said it reminded him what we were fighting for. She mentioned you in her last letter," Marcus Reed's mother said. "Called you the most principled officer she'd ever served under." By the time the ceremony concluded, Samantha was exhausted, but at peace in a way she hadn't been for years. As General Cross wheeled her out, she said quietly, "Now I can go." 3 weeks later, Commander Samantha Rivers died in her sleep at Walter Reed. Her obituary in the Washington Post mentioned only her distinguished military service and decorations, with no reference to Shadow Echo or her final mission for justice. But at Arlington National Cemetery, where she was interred with full military honors, her headstone bore the Shadow Echo insignia beneath her name. In the months that followed, change came quietly but significantly. Congress passed enhanced oversight regulations for private military contractors, nicknamed the Rivers Protocols by those in the know. The Department of Defense established new accountability measures for classified operations. Several mid-level officials who had been complicit in the cover-up resigned or were reassigned 6 months after Samantha's death. Torres, now heading a special task force investigating private military contractors, visited Arlington. As she approached Samantha's grave, she noticed she wasn't the first visitor that day. A Shadow Echo insignia had been placed against the headstone, along with similar tokens at several nearby graves, the previously unmarked resting places of other Shadow Echo operators. "They've been coming for weeks," a groundskeeper told her. "Different people, different days, military types mostly. Always leave the same symbol." At the War College that autumn, General Cross added a new module to the ethics curriculum for senior officers. Without explicitly mentioning classified details, he used the Vanguard case as a study in the limits of deniability and the true meaning of command responsibility. "Remember the name Samantha Rivers," he told his students. "Someone who never asked for recognition, but deserved it more than anyone." A student raised his hand. "Sir, are the stories about Shadow Echo true?" Cross smiled slightly. "Some units leave no footprints, but that doesn't mean they weren't there." Later that year, in a secure facility deep within the Pentagon, a technician carefully updated the Wall of Honor with new names and photos. Operators whose service could finally be acknowledged, if only in this classified space. At the center of the new additions was Samantha's photo, her expression serious but eyes clear. And determined. Across the city, in the office of the Secretary of Defense, a new advisory committee met for the first time. Its mission, to review procedures for contractor oversight and ensure accountability even in classified operations. Its name didn't appear in any public document, but internally it was known as the Eclipse Committee, and its logo featured 3 stars in a triangle. In a small apartment in Georgetown, Prosecutor Torres added the final pages to a secure file. The Vanguard case was officially closed, Justice served as fully as classified operations would allow. As she sealed the file, her phone rang. Another contractor. Another operation gone wrong. Another whistleblower seeking help. She answered immediately. "This is Torres." The voice on the other end was hesitant. "I served with Commander Rivers. She said if anything happened, you were the one to trust." Torres straightened, Samantha's example fresh in her mind. "I'm listening." This story teaches us that sometimes the greatest battles are fought in shadows. The bravest warriors are never recognized, but they sacrifice everything for justice. Silent heroes like Samantha Rivers live among us. It's our duty to recognize them, to show them respect. Now I ask you, have you ever met someone like Samantha Rivers? Someone who appeared ordinary but had an extraordinary past, who stood alone against injustice? Share their story in the comments. And if this story moved you, please subscribe, because the stories of hidden heroes deserve to be told.